What's up, guys? Welcome back. It's Maverick here with another episode of Yuukoku no Moriarty. So, we are continuing this new arc here with apparently references to Jack the Ripper, right? Which is not exactly a very new sort of concept to mix Sherlock Holmes and Jack the Ripper. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere else before, in Detective Conan, in fact, and perhaps a few other media as well. So let's see what exactly this anime's take on it is. I mean, the fact that they already brought out another character that is supposedly Jack, the actual Jack the Ripper, is already fun enough, and perhaps kind of also important is what is Sherlock's role in all of this, because I kind of find it hard to believe that he would sit out on the sidelines when such a prolific serial murder case is going on. So let's just jump into the anime. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Well, now. Alright. Okay. Sure. Internal organs removed. Right. Through a letter. Oh wait, let's try to actually. Alright. Right. We said this last episode already, right? Lestrade would probably go to Sherlock for help. Although, why is Sherlock rejecting her? I'm sure he has some weird reason. We'll see. Your sickness inside. I actually like this song. It's just that I don't really feel it fits. Like the original, the opening for last season, I feel like really fit this, right? In the lyrics and also in a sort of the vibe that he gave off as well. Right? It's not that this song is bad. I actually like it. It's just kind of feels odd to me, fitting with this topic and this opening animation. It's not just mud. Organized crime. But why? Why would they want to do this? Alright. So they're not actually going to go for that angle. Okay, okay. Oh, no shit. Who would want to just go around killing people for no reason, right? Quite similar to what the Moriartys are doing, right? Striking fear, causing dissonance. See? Quite similar to what the Moriartys are trying to do. All right. You guys should really use the buddy system. This guy's gonna get killed, isn't he? Or no, wait, he's gonna find killers. This has got to be like the most stupidest kind of conflict ever. Talk about dramatic effect. So now the Moriartys have turned it, right? Having a common enemy unites people. That's what Watchmen told us. Wait, he's actually... And why don't you guys, like, shoot him? Like, I can't believe nobody thought to shoot him. Herder. Seriously, this entire Moriarty operation is you know, quite legit, right? They even have their own Q and whatnot. I mean, they got Bond, they got Q, and I guess Moriarty is M? You have a gun in your hand, you know? Yeah, there we go. Damn, they got even bulletproof armor? Really? Alright. Probably another shot. Yep. Again, this is like, what, the 1900s? Damn. Again, is this supposed to be Q? Right. But still, having this, I feel like, is, to me anyways, it makes for a better show, it's more entertaining, and it's more realistic, instead of, you know, the bunch of dudes not even knowing how to use the weapons in their hand, right? Although, damn. Although, in all honesty, this already doesn't make a lot of sense if any of the people there are thinking this through. Like, this is clearly a guy who has no qualms about killing, right? He's a killer, so how come he's not killing any of these people that get in his way, right? I wonder if Sherlock will pick up on that, actually. Ooh, nice. A Gatling gun. Nice. I think the first Gatling gun came out around 1880, 1890, something of that. All right. So they're going to get to the front. But how... What? Again, how does she have this... Oh, whatever. Oh my god. Oh man. You know what? If you want to go like all unrealistic about it, go balls to the wall crazy. That's always been my philosophy, right? If you're gonna do some really unrealistic shit, go all the way. So who is this dude?
師匠、
フレッド、お前、
そこの木戸の奥から安全な地下水路に入れます。ここからは僕が。
ああ、頼んだぞ。あ、いたぞ、こっちだ。この野郎、待てジャック。わしも年だな。だが、1時間。
Yeah, they basically had like a 50, 60-year-old dude running around for an hour.
まったく計画が台無しだ。あと一息で自警団とヤードを衝突させられたのに。慌てるな。次の勝負をやれば状況はまた整う。ああ、俺たちでこの国にはびこる権力者ども地獄に送ってやるんだ。待て。明かりを消せ。
地獄はもぬけの殻だ。すべての悪魔はここにいる。
何者だ、お前たちは。
ジェームズ・モリアーティ、あるいは犯罪狂と名乗った方がわかりやすいかな。
犯罪狂だと。
あなた方に罰を与えに来たジャック・ザ・リッパー事件、連続娼婦殺しのね。
こいつ真相に気づいて。この国を混乱に陥れる。つまり君も革命を起こそうとしているのだろう。
Okay, I'm glad that they addressed this. And Moriarty's gonna be like, no, your methods are wrong, blah blah blah.
崇高なる我々の目的が実現できるのではないか。
あなた方はその革命のためなら弱い立場の命は一方的に強奪しても構わないと。
So basically Moriarty is saying, even if you do instigate a revolution, it's just gonna be the exact same thing with different rulers.
そうですか。その言葉を聞いて安心しました。その理論で言えば、僕たちがあなた方の命を一方的に奪っても文句はないということですから。
こいつ、それが答えか。ならば殺せ。
8人、いいね、ルイス。はい、兄さん、皆殺しですね。
ほしゃー。I can't believe that for a bunch of criminals, you guys don't even have a gun. Although I'm sure, even with a gun, they probably would have a way to get through this.
あなた方が全員揃うまで十分に時間はあったさ。
なんだと。
It's rigged with explosives or something?
彼らの逃げ足と
Yeah.
この導火線、どちらが早いかな。
Ooh.
モラン君。ああ、任務完了の合図。撤退するぞ。
残ったのは死体だけ。このままにしておいていいんですね。ああ、もうすぐヤードが来る。遅かれ早かれホームズも来るはずだ。ホームズであればきっと事件の全容にたどり着くだろう。その時の彼の反応が知りたいと思ってね。
He probably also knows that.
都合の悪い真実を取るか、都合のいい嘘を取るかということですね。
Yep. Okay. So who are you? You are the true mastermind, right? Who? Charles Augustus Milverton? Is this a reference to another character from the Sherlock Holmes stories? If so, I'm sorry, I don't know who he is.
爆発のせいで死因が判明しにくいものも多いですが、刺し傷から見てプロの犯行と言えますね。
我々もそう見ています。この現場を見て何か分かったことはないか、ホームズ。
Okay, what's he gonna say?
シャーロック。
おそらくこいつらもジャック・ザ・リッパーの被害者だろう。全員視察した後、爆発をおとりにして奴は逃げ。
No, he's gonna take the convenient lie.
我々は非常線を張り、ジャック・ザ・リッパーを追う。助かったぞ、ホームズ。たく、都合の悪い真実ってのもあるもんだな。ヤードと自警団の衝突という最悪なシナリオを回避させつつも、事件そのものを解決する。そんな手品みたいな真似できるやつは一人しかいない。だがこれじゃまるで貴族だ。一体何を考えてやがる、犯罪狂。
やはりその選択をしたのか、ホームズ。となれば、ヤード上層部はジャックが捕まらないこの状況を良しとはしないだろう。彼らが次に考える手となると。
Okay. Huh, this seems quite early. Is there a little bit more after the ending here? Alright, I guess we'll just wait. I am kind of curious though why Sherlock refused to take the case at the beginning there. I mean, I think it is part of Sherlock's profile that he only does cases that interest him. But I feel like a serial murder case would interest him, actually. And I also need to Google up that guy that showed up at the very end there. I have no idea who he is. Like, anyways, so, I mean, obviously, at this point, it's quite clear that, you know, we shouldn't really just go through this with a sense of it being a sort of mystery or detective anime, right? That's clearly not what this is. I mean, I guess that was clear all the way back in season 1, though. But here, it's getting really more and more ridiculous. But it's cool. You know, I gotta give it that. It's cool. Right.
どうしたの？
どうしたもこうしたも一体どうなってんだ。何を取り乱している、モランよ。
さすが先生、見事な着こなしで。
No, he's...
当然だ。今やこっちの方が本職だからな。
モランにだけはサプライズにしたくてね。先生はこれから当家のバトラーになられる。
はあ、
ルイスばかりに2つの邸宅の管理を任せるのは。
2 residences.
これでルイスも我々の計画により参加しやすくなるだろう。はい、お心遣いありがとうございます。
なあ、みんな改めてよろしくな。
どうしたのモラン君。顔色悪いようだけど。
嘘だろ。
I guess Moron is supposed to be like the voice of reason among all this. Alright, so I will see you guys after this. Alrighty, so apparently that villain at the very end there, Charles Augustus Milverton, is an actual villain within the Sherlock Holmes series. Honestly, I've never heard of him before, but again, like I said before, I haven't actually read the entirety of the original Sherlock Holmes stories, so do forgive my lack of knowledge on this part, right? But in any case, he is supposedly a blackmailer, right? Which kind of makes sense in how he is revealed this episode as well. realizing the true identity of the Moriartys and whatnot, which I presume is going to play in hand with how he tries to blackmail them in the future, right? So we got that to look forward to, and let's talk about this episode at hand first, right? Because honestly, even with all the really over-the-top things that was going on, I feel like, you know, compared to for instance, the cruise ship, the cruise ship murder back in season 1 and whatnot, I feel pretty good about this one, right? You know, all the steps and whatnot were logical. Like, sure, there were some very superhuman things being done here, but at this point, I think we can just consider it part of the story, right? The rest of the actions and whatnot, they are logical. I love the way that they addressed, you know, the fact that the guys chasing Jack had guns and whatnot. You know, they were actively shooting at him, and so, you know, having to have countermeasures to that as well. That's great. The Gatling gun, I feel like, was kind of sort of an overkill, but I understand why they brought it in. It's to drive drama, right, and to give us a really cool action scene and whatnot. So fine, and for the purposes of entertainment, we can just say sure. But it's definitely quite overkill to use against like one assailant who actually isn't even killing anybody at that point. You know, he isn't even armed with guns. But beyond that, I do love the fact that they address the fact that the Moriartys and this criminal syndicate, right, they were pretty much doing the same sort of stuff, right? They were shrouding the city of London and indeed the entire nation under a shroud of fear and trying to incite a revolution here. Now, obviously, Moriarty is not going to work with these guys because of the things I mentioned during the episode. Like, these guys are no better than the ones that they're trying to replace and whatnot. In fact, I'm quite curious, like, what's instigating them to incite revolution in the first place, right? Because as far as we can say, it's certainly not anything to do with peace and equality for all and whatnot. It seems more simply that well, it could be instigated by Milverton, right? The mastermind behind all this, or it could also be a fact that you know, they're just disgruntled that they're not the ones in power, so they want to overthrow the ones in power so that they can be the ones in power, right? I do wonder though if how Moriarty would actually deal with the situation if instead this was a bunch of people who are, you know, really, you know, patriotic, such as him, right? And basically trying to build up a peaceful nation with equality for all, you know, minus the prostitutes and whatnot, because I think it would be very easy at that point in time to consider them as below citizenry, right? So for the good of the citizens, if you will, and have that sort of conflict of nature at that point. I do wonder how Moriarty would deal with that situation then. Certainly he probably still disapprove of the entire thing, but I do feel like that keeps things a little bit more spicy, right? Whereas here, you know, we can safely say, yeah, they just deserve to be killed, just go about it, right? And you know, it's very clean and tidy here. But I guess more to the point, I just want to see Moriarty being tested, right? I want to see his morals being tested. I want to see his methods being tested. You know, that's just what I like, right? And it's not a matter of whether he is supposedly on the antagonist side of things or the wrong side of the law. It's just that, to me, what makes an interesting story is to see how our protagonists react towards, you know, not so clean situations here, right? So that's something that I want to see in the future. And I'm also, if I were to say another place I am kind of disappointed by, it's that we didn't get the full sort of breakdown from Sherlock, which actually still might happen in the next episode. I kind of get the feeling that Watson isn't quite convinced with what Sherlock said at the very end there, so maybe they will have a little bit more back and forth in the next episode to further explain the entire process and what happened and whatnot, because certainly I feel like there are sufficiently enough weird things that happened throughout this episode that Sherlock could definitely pick up on and realize that, hey, this is something fishy going on, and you know, it's not just a simple matter of a Jack the Ripper going around, or heck, well, we know that he knows what's going on, right? But I want to see him, I want to see how he arrives at the conclusion, if you will. I want to see his prowess, his intelligence, his knowledge at work to solve these crimes, and then eventually still go to the same conclusion that he made at the end of this episode. But let us see the process, right? I feel like it's more fun that way. But well, in any case, that's it for this one, and yeah, we'll see how exactly this Milverton dude is going to mess things up in the next one, right? And since now this Milverton dude seems more so on the antagonist side to Moriarty, I do wonder how Sherlock is going to be involved in all this as well. Is he actually going to inadvertently help Moriarty in some sort of way? I do think so. So we'll see how that all goes down in the future. So anyways, thank you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.